Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, and welcome again to another Saturday night talk and sip. And I wish you all the best. And for those joining me on Instagram, those joining me on TikTok, those joining me on Facebook and YouTube, I want to thank you so much for joining. Hey, Kim, I can see you. You need to jump over onto the onto the what do you call it? The right side, which is YouTube, if you can. I want to thank you guys for that, and welcome to also the guests coming on tonight. Well, tonight is talk and sip, ladies and gentlemen, and you know, and I won't go into what we're drinking, but I'll wait to when I bring in my guests to find out what they're drinking. But tonight still there's a difference also because I've got some sort of I got a goodie, something someone sent me from Jamaica, something which is very special and something very nice. But also, I've definitely got some water and some wine and coconut water as well. The title, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, is World Views. And it is very clear that Worldview watch the leadership gap. You know, and what we're looking at today in this world, and it's not just something which is emanating from what is happening internationally, but also what is happening also here with us, and that is something which is I would consider to be very important. The Saturday night where we delve into pressing issues of our time, shining a spotlight on a topic that affects us all, regardless of where we live. The current state of global leadership and its far-reaching implication for communities worldwide. If you see the video, which I did in my promotion, you had some people like Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, Mandela, even Michael Manley. These are persons who are shapers of the world. In an increasing interconnected world, the choices made by leaders at the global level do have a profound impact on our daily lives. The decisions made in boardroom parliaments and diplomatic negotiations can ripple through our communities, shaping our economic prospects, our environmental well-being, and our collective sense of security as citizens. It is crucial that we understand and engage with the state of global leadership, for it's our voice and our votes that empower leaders to steer the course of nations. Leadership, however, is not a static concept. It evolves, it adapts, and it's often a reflection of our collective hopes and our fears. We'll explore some of the changing landscape of global leadership. We'll explore some of the things within communities, and also got to look at homes as well. And as we navigate these uncertain waters of the 21st century, it's a long time we've been talking about 21st century. It's essential that we engage in constructive dialogue, challenge conventional wisdom, and envision a world where leadership truly serves the common good. We invite you to join on this journey as we explore. We touch base, of course, on Jamaica. We touch base on people exploring business opportunities. Is it good for the small man? Is it a hard work for the small man to get into business as well? Looking at the landscape, lots of people are looking for opportunities, but those who hold the key to releasing these opportunities have to look at it to see whereby how can I oil the mechanism instead of putting a block in the whole process. Leadership. We touch also on Ramish's brief issue there in Jamaica regarding Jamaicans trying to get a job. Leadership hold the sector. Leadership has a key. But of course, I have no direct views, but definitely I will share some of these things tonight and hear from my guests as well tonight. Welcome, Sandra Police. Good evening. You're going to have coconut water. Awesome. Let me just bring in O'Neill. O'Neill, good evening. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah. How are you doing? Hearing me now?
Yeah, I'm good. I can hear you. I can hear you very, very clearly. How is Jamaica?
Jamaica was good. I got back yesterday. So, back on the state side.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And go on, sorry, Anil.
No, it was good. It was a good time off. Saw some family and just went into one of my favorite place, which, as you know, is Portland. Sorry, it's not St. Anne's. 'Cause I don't consider St. Anne's Ochia Parish or a city.
Oh, you don't want to, you don't want to go there. You don't consider Orchard a parish.
Our city. Our city.
Well, the interesting thing though is that I don't know. I saw it on my Instagram feed, whereby American Airlines is planning to travel to Ocherius. Ocherius is where you're gonna go to. Ocherius.
What, they're going to land on the water?
Well, it must be the water because, and everybody's coming up and saying there's not an airport in Ocherius.
No, there's actually Errol Flynn, which is
Buscabel.
Errol Flynn is there. Airport.
No, the one in Buscabel, isn't it?
It's just outside of Ocherius, the town.
Yeah,
Probably
Buscabel.
Yeah.
Buscabel, St. Mary.
Yeah, St. Mary. Yeah.
So, and I do recall growing up in Jamaica, everybody used to say, anywhere close to Ocherius, they call it Ocherius. Montego Bay, no, not Montego Bay. St. Anne's Bay, they call it Ocherius. Some part of Runaway Bay, they call it Ocherius. Everybody, they call Ocherius. So now what they're saying is that place there is deemed to be Ocherius because that's a marketing thing. But then I said to myself, why not just keep market Buscabel, St. Mary? I got married in Buscabel, Villa del Sol, if I can recall that place there. It's a lovely place. Why not just say Buscabel? Ocherius is exclusive. You need a passport to go to Ocherius and a visa. You know what I'm trying to say?
That's why I got denied. That's why I went to Portland.
You know, let me just bring in Herbert. How are you doing, sir? You're laughing. Are you from Ocherius? Are you're also slandering the best parish, the best city in the country?
By how do you determine that?
What, the best city in the country?
Yeah.
Listen, when I formed the organization called Facilitators for Better Jamaica, I used to get a lot of people having a go at me to say, how are you speaking for Jamaicans and Facilitators for Better Jamaica? I said, because I'm from Jamaica, straight out of yard, so we can talk up. So therefore, I'm from Ocherius. So I determined that Ocherius, Jamaica. Ocherius.
I never heard of Ocherius in my life.
The funniest thing is, the funny thing is, if I ask you to detail where you're from, you're not from Ocherius.
Oh, don't get in. Don't go there.
He's from Brownstown. He's from.
Was he talking to Leicester?
He's from Brownstown.
You know, your parents can be somewhere else, but they got to make a move quick when baby are coming. I mean, so it might not be Ocherius that you're born, but you know, your original Ochi man. You know what I'm saying?
He was born in St. Mary.
I guess you've been watching the show for a while, Herbert. Hence the reason why you said that, isn't it?
No, it's something that I encountered when I was in the police force in Jamaica.
Yes.
You arrest someone or you're prosecuting someone and you ask them where they're from.
Yes.
And they give you the closest city, not the district or the district.
You notice he said city because he was actually alluding to Jamaica Ocherius as a city. You know what I'm saying?
No. They give the closest city, the closest township.
Yeah.
Not that they're from Monique or Claremont, but they're from Ocherius.
Yes.
Right. So it's a question of identifying who you are by knowing where you're from.
Where you exactly from? Where you from, fam? You want to stop? Silverberg, where you from?
Me. Are you talking to me or Herbert?
Yeah, you, Silverberg. Where you from?
I'm from Ocherius.
No, where you from? Where you from?
Well, you're becoming Prince Charles. You're becoming those guys. You're one of those guys. Now I'm from. I'm from my mama. I'm from my mother. You know.
Yeah.
You know. Somebody just said a while ago, just back from Jamaica, they really upgraded the immigration system. It was a top class experience. What was your experience, Anil? Somebody on TikTok just said it was a top class experience.
No, it is. You have the kiosk now. It is not as crowded. I flew into Kingston, and I think from deplaning to going through probably took me less than 10 minutes.
Mm.
Yeah, they put the kiosks, and plus they have the club Kingston that you could take, and they take you through. So there's different venues now for you to get out, and the bags are coming faster. So it seems the system has been upgraded.
Okay, that's great. What are you guys drinking tonight? I've got to.
I have some sparkling water and a glass of red cab.
Yeah,
I'm drinking some fruit juice and Pepsi.
yeah, I've got the I can't fight it, that the idiot orange juice, what do you call it, coconut water, but I just felt like coconut water got some, it's the closest to driving through Ocherius and stop the Virgin Emp on the side of the road, and getting your coconut water, when
And
you're driving.
they got their coconut from St. Mary.
Coconut from St. Let's hope they have a bathroom close by. But listen, I mean, you heard what I opened with and spoke about the Worldview Watch leadership gap, and we have been talking about this for so long, from during the COVID period. It is something which is so resonating, and that's why I link it from the Worldview Watch, mean to say leadership, not just from what's going on internationally in the Middle East, but also right into our homes. And for the past 2 weeks, I've been looking at diplomacy, the art of diplomacy, if that is a way how things can happen. And we're seeing the trip by Biden. We're seeing the trip also by Rishi Sunak, trying to sort of doing some mediation, opening these corridors, getting in boats, what should I call it? Aid in. What's you guys' take on O'Neill? We're going to go into Jamaica, but what's your take on this leadership?
I think we've discussed it at length over the last 2 years, and I think there's been a lot of discussion and research. I think probably the past 10 years, because one, I've seen a decline in leadership overall, and one asks, what are some of the important traits of leadership? In my opinion, self-awareness is a big part of being a leader. Empathy is a huge part of being a leader.
Yes.
And I have this sentiment that if you sort of go back to some of the great leaders that we've had, Churchill, and you have Roosevelt, you have Obama, you have all these leaders. Yeah. But just focus on the folks who were part of World War I, World War II. I think what is different is that you could have conversation and sit in a room and have debate about a topic that's super important, and that topic was deep enough and there was respect across the room, but you weren't playing to the media. You weren't playing to sort of a news cycle. If you sort of look at the big things, Bretton Woods, UN, right, there was a very deliberative discussion with folks from around the world, and they sat in there, heard each other's views. I think the spring that birthed new leaders, and there's a difference in my mind between sort of your corporate leader and what we're talking about is global leadership, right? The statesman, the diplomat. And I think over the last 10 years, I've seen a shift where leaders are so wanting to come on camera, to create this narrative, that they're not willing to do the deep thinking or zoom out around their policy or deeply understand the issue.
Yes.
And what are the things that they're trying to solve for, and have dialogue. And I think there has been triumphs. There's also the issue of West versus East, right? Where I think you have a lot of feedback coming there.
Yeah.
Good feedback coming. So if you look at Kissinger just, I think he's 100 years old.
Yes.
He's still one of the, arguably the best statesmen we've had. And I think one of the things that I've seen with Kissinger, he was willing to sit down and listen to the other side and hear their perspective. And I think that's what is lacking in the world, is the ability, regardless if you and I disagree, is to sit across the table and figure out what are the things that we agree on, what are the things that we could solve for today. And if we're going to make big policy decisions that are going to impact the world, how do we ensure that inputs are from folks that look different than you and I, etc. And I think that's one of the big differences here, Silver, and why we see this deficit in leadership. So Silver, you still, I'm good, and that's Herbert could come in, but you're having a feedback.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting a little feedback there as well. Let me just ask. Let me ask a question. Let me ask a question. Vita and Sandra Pules, let me know if you are hearing some sort of feedback from myself there. At the same
time.
Now. It's good now.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Herbert.
So that's why I see the difference in the Herbert.
Yeah. Herbert. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a massive deficit in leadership in the world today. In my opinion, I think the last great leader we had was Obama, President Obama. Everybody else that comes after that were more like, tell me what I want to hear and not what I need to hear. Right? And they're fighting for, as O'Neill said, media space. When you have all that happening, it is going to create it will create a gap in this space for leadership. And I heard a man said one day that in the world of a blind man, the one-eyed man is king. Right? These leaders really have much to be desired. And that is one thing I fear for, especially England in the next election, as I do not see the depth in leadership quality here.
Yeah. There O'Neill, there was okay, feedback again. There was a recent election in the UK here. And the election was, there are 2 seats for the Conservative that went to Labour. And some of the feedback I was hearing from a few of the people were that I just want to change, but they just voted. One person just voted Lib Dems, and they said, "Oh, I should have voted Labour." What is coming across is like people are not so convicted, and therefore, if they're not convicted, it is that they are not getting convicted leaders, right? Convicted leadership, and we've discussed this a few times, whereby somebody said Obama is an amazing orator. Heard him on College Green, Dublin. You know, is it orators we want, or we want conviction? Margaret Thatcher wasn't. Would you say Margaret Thatcher was a charismatic person, or she was just a firm person with strength of character and mean what she said? This lady's not for turning, or is it a nice charismata?
I think you have to know what you stand for.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You know, I think leaders today don't know what they stand for, right? They know, some of them know what they stand against. And if you just, take the bit that you talked about, I think if you look, and it's not just the UK, the US, it's across the world, where you have people who, what we call leaders. So you could go from the member of parliament to the local government to president to prime minister, etc.
Yeah.
The question becomes, who are they governing for and what they're governing about? And I think they can't articulate that clearly, even though they have been in power, for example, in this case where they lost that seat to the Labour Party or the Lib Dem, is that they weren't willing to go out there and articulate to the people why they should stay in power.
Mm.
Is there's this corruption of what I call the political class, where the donor class control sort of the policies, right? So as a result of that, a lot of leaders who are in position that they are supposed to lead and provide policy direction for the people to make their lives better, they're not doing that. They are not doing that at all. And they're not telling the story.
Mm.
And therefore, there's a disconnect between the people and the leaders who are setting the policies that will govern how their life would sort of be uplifted by these policies or the lack of these policies, right? And I think that's where you see a big deficit. And we haven't had a leader, and I would say Barack was a good leader, but I would say we have not had a leader in a long while that unite the world in a way that we have seen it. For example, if you take, the Reagans of the world, the Margaret Thatcher of the world, you take the Kennedy of the world, we have not had
Yes.
that leader who have actually unified the world. And that's the issue I think we're having, is that there's that huge deficit. And it's something that Herbert and I were talking, in his bit and my bit is sort of the lack of what they stand for. And I think there's a lack of awareness of the world in itself. And as I mentioned, Kissinger, arguably one of the best leader out there, if you will, he'll sit across and have discussion with people, right? He does not have the same perspective on it. He was the one that pushed us to get to China, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at the fact that we don't have any respected leader that could sit around a table and command the conversation and come up with a solution that meets all sides, it tells you we're in a world of hurt. And that's the issue. As Bob Marley said, there's so much trouble in the world right now, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at it, there's so much trouble. There's nobody you could say, whether it's the UK, the US, you name the country, that has a leader that could stand up and speak and people listen.
Yeah.
That's the issue we're having right now.
On of course, I'm using different platforms. On TikTok, someone said we have lost a lot of the big beast in politics, certainly in the UK. And someone said, "What is this about?" The topic is about Worldview Watch, leadership gaps, and how we unfold this thing. I saw in Jamaica, and this is about leadership on a world scale. I saw in Jamaica whereby, and I think it is trending now, where the Prime Minister Andrew Holness said that we don't want the PNP to come into power because they will mash up economy, or they will make things go bad or something of that nature. And I see the PNP responding to them, and my view was that, I think what one side should be doing is articulating what they're going to do, giving that level of conviction for what they're going to do for the nation. And it is similar, like in what is happening in the Middle East. You're not seeing a strong conviction from Biden, and then after Biden, then you'll have the UK coming. During September 11, you had Bush, and then you had Blair coming to sort of give that sort of strength. During the period of Margaret Thatcher and Reagan goes in, and then Margaret Thatcher come in, and they seal a deal. But you're not seeing that strength of character anymore. Is it that we are becoming a very, what should I say, a media-based sort of leadership now, but no sense of purpose?
No, but then you have to think, right? you have to think what these leaders were thinking when things started to happen, right?
Mm.
Um, were you speaking because of the benefit that you can get from jumping on a particular side, or are you speaking because you feel the need or you felt the need to speak up and speak out against something? So you have to kind of examine the, the mindset of the leaders back then
Yeah,
up until now, 2023.
yeah, yeah,
And I think if you look at, you and I
Ev-
talked about this, Silver.
yeah.
Um, if you go back and look at 1914, there's a book, and I just say the Guns of August. And when you read the historical context of that book, the reason you had World War One was because of the lack of leadership. Folks were not willing to talk to each other, right? And we're seeing sort of the same sort of story played out, where now we have the US, we have assets in the Middle East, China is sending assets in the Middle East, right? So you have all these things now move in that direction. And the question becomes, what is the end state? And there's no leader that is able to articulate that. We had Biden who gave his bit. Um,
Yeah,
Biden gave his bit a couple of days ago, right? Normally, you'd see where a UK prime minister will come and address parliament on the topic. Maybe the prime minister did, but you would see a set of leaders who then come out and then articulate a vision. And we haven't
mm,
seen that. And I think that's where we're seeing there's a lot of folks around the world who are trying to figure out how this will play out, right?
yeah.
Because, in my opinion, this is a powder keg, and we need someone to sort of unify the discussion so we could resolve the issue at hand. And I don't think we
Yeah.
have that.
Okay. Well. Thank you for that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's welcome Jody Murray. How are you, Jody? Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
And you have Lester Smiley. You got blogging God. It's normally it's called Gaza. I don't know why Gaza is not there anymore. Is there any reason why you don't have Gaza up there?
Guys, I mashed up last week, man.
Is that true?
No.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yes, Lester. What up? What up?
Lester
Welcome
is
to Gaza.
frozen after that comment.
No, no, no. For Vagazo.
What you drinking, Jody, and what you drinking, Lester?
Well,
This
I'm
is
drinking
just a mix of some things.
water.
Oh, you show something else, but you didn't say what it was, and then you said water.
Just milk tea, milk.
Yeah, yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining those on TikTok as well, who are coming in, and they said soon the right wing is going to rise in all of Europe, and it's going to be scary time, believe me. And somebody said if a prime minister is not British, he don't gonna give a F on England. Uh, Jody, I don't know if you have heard what we've been speaking about leadership. What's your take on this? I'm looking at it from a global perspective, right down into the homes. So therefore, global, country, you know, community, home, the whole aspect of leadership, and
Okay, so my thought process on that is I think we're going through a revolution. And once there is a change in the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is all the alleys, all the economical changes, all the changes in society's morals and ethics, we're just literally going through a revolution. That's what we're doing. And we are just smack in the middle of the change process. And if anybody knows anything about the change process, I mean, there's going to be automatic resistance at first because we're not going to understand that it's just a change or a revolution. And so, what you're going to find is exactly what we're seeing now. Some leaders who were not thriving will thrive. those who were thriving will not thrive, or should I say leadership in terms of countries,
Mm,
because it's either they were preparing or not preparing, or expecting or not expecting this revolution to take place. So every country is going to respond differently in terms of who steps up as a leader or who they accept as a leader, in my perspective.
Yeah, Lester, your take on this, Lester. So you're having a problem there a while ago, Lester. I muted you. Um, Thank you for that, Jody.
you're hearing some like some music or something?
Like somebody, like a call is coming in. Is that you? A call coming in, and then
I,
it's
I,
it.
I don't know why people start coming. I don't know if they've seen me on your show. Yeah, you know,
No,
your show famous now, you know.
they're trying to find out what happened to Gaza.
Yeah. Um, I think I answered this question some months ago. You know. For me personally, right? One of the last recognizable world leaders, I would say, is Fidel Castro. Um, you know, he was a man's man. You know, we might not agree with his policies or his politics or certain things, but you know, he held his country together in the way that he wanted to, as was the best for the Cuban people, and he was admired around the world by many people for his
Yeah.
stance on many things. Um, but the change in technology um, has destroyed um, the fabric of society right across the spectrum. You know, when we look at like Jamaica and the Caribbean, there are certain languages that we didn't use up until the integration of BET TV into the Caribbean. You know, when you look at the World Wide Web being more popularized now, and more accessible to handle devices, even our way how we communicate, how we relate, the way how we consume information, the way how we give information, you know, has totally gone haywire. When you look at um, the television being used to raise kids or to keep kids quiet, so kids are being fed with a particular type of programming. So you don't have a type of nurturing anymore where certain morals and ethics is passed down again. But also, like, world leaders are trying to be popular also. You know, there's this popularity. You know, in America, you have the popular vote. You know, and a lot of countries are taking on a lot of things from the United States and from Europe, and you know, you don't have a sense of identity. You don't have a sense of common in terms of what a leader should be. People are looking for the popular and the shock value in a lot of ways. But when you look at the community everywhere has broken down. Everywhere, you know. You, you don't see like a difference now. You don't see a difference in between old people and young people. You see a lot of young people disrespecting old people. You see a lot of old people disrespecting the system and authority. So you don't have so a small example when you have adults on video telling our prime minister the most insane thing. And kids are going to see that now. And what happened when you see on TikTok, you see kids repeating what they have seen adults been telling our prime minister about it, you know, in mother and all themselves. Right? Adults started it. So you have a breakdown in how leadership was. We used to look at policemen, firemen, teachers. Everybody has this popularity thing now where You see teachers dancing, teachers, doing stuff to be popular. So you don't have a differentiation anymore in terms of leadership. And the internet and television and cable and even worldwide travel, the increase in worldwide travel has broken down the fabric of all of that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thanks. Oh, Neil, yeah, go on. Thanks, Lester. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when I just look across and just think through, I think the lack of, we've been talking about it, but on either continent, you always had a strong leader. Angela Merkel, I think, is out of Europe, was probably one of the strongest leader that you know this scene and is back in private life. I think she was a strong leader and she held Europe together. I think there's a deficit in Europe. And I think the lack of understanding of how the world works is a huge part of it. With the Queen who passed, her voice mattered. When she speaks, people around the world listen, regardless of whether people disagree with her or not. But I think when you take it down to that level, I think it's a lack of leaders who understand the implication of policies across the world, right? And how we're interconnected, right? 30, 40 years ago, you want to go from the UK to Jamaica, it would take what, 3, 4 weeks because you have to go by ship. Right now, you can jump on a plane and you're in Jamaica. News travel faster than light now in these times. So if something happened, it's on TikTok or it's somewhere. I think there is also, if you take it to the local level, there's a breakdown of the family unit, right? When I say family unit, I'm just talking overall. If you just bring local back to Jamaica, family unit was your next door neighbor. They said, well, it takes a village. It was the guy who knew your grandmother who makes sure you kept straight. It's all these ecosystem that has broken down. And I think now we are living in a culture with the internet where everyone wants a tick. It's the viral moment. So everyone from politician all the way down are creating this viral moment. And that's why I think it was either last year or this year, I don't remember, where the lady in the parliament in Jamaica, I forgot what he said, but she used the word, told the guy to shut his mouth or something like that. And it's not just Jamaica.
Yeah.
But you're seeing that, and when you look at it, I believe it gets down to, I think Lester or Jody probably said it, is where we're not being parent anymore. We're handing the kids an algorithm that feeds them all this content day in, day out. And then they're now what you call digital native. And that's all they have done over the last 15, 16 years. They've spent their time beyond a screen. Their social skills are lacking. They don't say auntie, uncle anymore, right? So those are the things that the fabric of our society is breaking apart. And I'm not sure what will it take to bring that back together. And again, that's another type of leadership. And I don't think we have it, even when you take it down to the level of the church. The church used to be a huge part, and Lester said it. Back then, the pastor, the doctor, the nurse, the policeman, those are people you respected. If someone said a policeman or a nurse was coming, everybody stand up straight and yes, ma'am. Teacher, the same thing. You don't have that anymore. And it's a different society, and I think it's causing this decadence of our society. And I think create those leaders are now drying up. And that's why you see the lack of leadership around the world.
And Sandra Puller said the world is looking for a one world leader. And I'm going to link that because he's talking about the world looking for a one world leader. You're talking about also in the UK, somebody was saying we need one person to speak up for Black people. Also in communities now, and like in certain areas, you have one done. Is it like you're looking for some hardcore sort of leadership in a sense? Herbert, is he looking for some hardcore leadership? Some people at the discussion last week with Minister Mallahu fought, they said a lot of people are wanting to be like Singapore, but are they ready to get some of the treatment that created in Singapore?
If
Herbert,
if you go back to Iraq in the 90s, right? When they had Saddam,
Mm.
everything was on point, everything was under control. But
Yes.
remember, for each of those leaders that you take out, on a crime fighting level, for each done that you take out, it creates a
Void.
vacuum, right? And what you find is people now start to jostle for for 10 people start to jostle for the same position, right? You have 10 job applicants for one vacancy.
Mm.
It is going to create a problem, and that is where you see all these wars and so-called wars are being created, right? Because everybody wants to be at the top. Why? Because that's where they feel like they can protect themselves from their enemies.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're looking for one world leader, but everybody wants to be that person,
Mm.
right? If you look at happenings across the pond now, where Trump is trying to get back into the White House to secure himself, nobody else,
Mm.
right? He's trying to get back into the White House so he can bury all those charges against him, right? Netanyahu in Israel is trying to get the judges fired because he wants to bury the charges against him.
So you see, so what you're actually saying is that there are a lot of ulterior motives in these type of leaders these
Correct.
days.
Correct.
Yeah. I think Jody's gone. O'Neill, you can come back. Or Lester. Yeah.
Um, I don't know what's in most of these leaders' heart, right? Because what we see is what we hear on television.
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't think there's a one leader. The world has changed. If you sort of go back, I sort of use the analogy. If you go back to the 1992 U.S. basketball team with Michael Jordan, they was the most dominant team ever, right?
Yeah.
They were beating teams by 40, 50. And now we went to a world championship and we didn't even come home with a bronze,
Yeah.
right? Because the world has changed. And I think you're seeing the same thing. If you go back, 30, 40 years ago, just go back when Reagan was around. I think China had a GDP of about $300 or something like that. India down there. The world has changed where there are more people out of poverty than we have seen before. We have the internet where connection is much more quicker, seamless. Global travel has increased. So I think you need a set of leaders that understand the dynamics and the changes.
Yeah.
You understand what it needs to uplift. You have technology that is changing at a breathtaking speed. We're actually on the internet 30 years ago, we wouldn't be sort of having this discussion. You have AI is changing. And I think within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be in a different world because the technology is going to advance so much that some people might be left behind. So the question becomes, what sort of world we want to create? And this is where it takes leadership in terms of what are the regulations that we're going to put in place, etc. So it's many leaders, and I think there's a place for our business leaders as well. But I think this is where I go back. The people's voices has to be heard.
Yes.
But unfortunately, if you walk around, most people are stuck to their phone. I was in a restaurant about a month and a half ago. There's a couple, and they were having dinner together. And I kid you not, I didn't see them say a word to each other. They both had their phone, and we're making jokes that they're texting back and forth. And they got the check, and got up and left.
Yes.
And you're like, wow. And that's where you see where people are right across from each other and they're sending a text. So we don't know how to deconflict. We don't know how to have a deep conversation. We think having a conversation on Twitter, that's a deep conversation, right? We think hiding behind our computer and attacking someone else. That's how we solve problems, right? I think those are the things that you're seeing where the internet has become the medium of how we communicate. And when you have these deep issues, these deep problems around the world, it takes leaders to sit in a room and have conversation and figure out to zoom out and say 10 years from now, what type of world we want and how we're going to ensure the systems are in place and we have the right set of architecture in place. And we're not having those discussions. And that's the issue. That's the deficit. And to be honest, I don't know how we get there because you don't see anyone stepping up, right? Because again, there's a lot of people that says, you know what? I don't want to be that guy. Or I don't want to be that lady. I rather sit in my house and let someone else go figure it out.
And therein lies the problem.
Yeah, go on, Herbert. Yeah, go on, Herbert.
Therein lies the problem because nobody wants to be that person.
Guy. Nobody want to be that guy.
Who made that tough decision.
So therefore, what we're seeing here and what O'Neill is actually saying and what is coming out, which many people are seeing, is that nobody is actually stepping up and wanting to make a difference. Everybody somewhat want an easy life to a certain extent. And because of that, it is like we have abdicated our responsibility to a certain extent. Now, I go to O'Neill back, but just using this example because O'Neill is in the States. Ladies and gentlemen, O'Neill is in the USA. Lester is in you're in USA, Lester? Or your heart is in the USA? Which one is it?
Netherlands.
I'm in the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
It's in the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Herbert is here in the UK with myself, and Jody is on the rock in Jamaica. Jody is the only legal person here who can speak up on Jamaica. But in America now, O'Neill, you have a situation where you do not have a Speaker of the House. In America now, you have a Trump and you have a Biden, and somehow you're not actually seeing, or is there someone coming up as to be the next voice? In the UK as well, you have Starmer, and in Rishi Sunak party, the Conservative, it's like maybe they need to take a break now because there's no voice, no strong voice coming up. So let's go. I'm going to Lester after, but O'Neill, go back to that part with the United States of America. No Speaker of the House, and no strong voice coming up from the Democrats.
I think it's sad and it's playing out in theater. And there's some people who have a point of view that says, you know what, that's democracy at work, whether we agree or not. There's some people call it chaos, right? It goes back and say we're seeing everything live. If you go back, 30, 40 years ago, even 20, there was always robust debate. You just didn't hear about it, right? Some of the best orator, I think you have Mr. Smith go to Washington that he spoke for, I think it was 72 hours or something like that straight because he believed in a topic. And we read about it and we learned about it in college. But I think that's, again, a deficit of leadership, a deficit of the person who could bring everyone together. And that's the struggle that we're having. And it's I think it was Charlemagne the God that was being interviewed. I think it was by Piers Morgan this week or last week. And he said, when you sort of look at US, we have Biden, who is pushing almost 82. And we have Trump, who's almost pushing close to 80. And that's the best we have for leaders. Because I think, as we said, there's not a lot of people who want to step up. Right? Or there are people who want to step up, they're just being drowned out, right? And maybe the issue we're seeing is that we have a generational deficit. Because if you look at sort of the average age in our Congress, I think it's like 79 years old. My son is 21. My son said to me that most of these people are making policy decisions. They will not live to see the effect of their policies. And which he's right? I think you see this chaotic stuff going on in the Congress right now. And a lot of it has to do with there's a set of folks within the Republican Party that are staunch to say, look, we have $33 trillion in debt. and we have to figure out how to solve them. Whether we agree with that sentiment or not, and they're using this to say we have to control spending. There's another group that says, we have to work with the Democrat, which I agree. You can't make policy without the other side. And McCarthy, he was ousted because he worked with the other party, and that's the sort
Yeah,
of system that we
No,
have.
yeah.
but
He was
remember,
he was trying to bridge a gap, wasn't he? To
but
bring the
it came too late.
sorry, O'Neill.
McCarthy,
Let's go back to
McCarthy
O'Neill.
made his move too late.
1 second, Herbert. O'Neill, was McCarthy trying to bridge a gap? The government has run
No,
out of
he
money,
butchered
and
Grant.
so
He actually came to consensus to make sure the government didn't get shut down. There's people in his party wanted the government to shut down. So it's where we talked about where when we started the conversation. If you look around the congressional halls, whether it's in the UK, the US, or Jamaica, back in the day, it was a discussion, it was a debate. It was Lester and I debating a point, and we are going back and forth until we figure out, oh, by the way, we agree 95%. There's just a 5% deficit. And we come together to solve the people's problem. And that's what you have. That's why when I grew up, I used to love Ask the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister had to get up and defend, and I used to love that. Now you don't have that. It's all about, let me run to TikTok, let me run to, you name the social media platform.
drop a tweet or something like that. Yeah, yeah.
And that's what we're having.
Yeah.
It's what Herbert said. We're playing to the tune of the media cycle. That's what we're playing.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And I'm going to bring in Jody and Lester. And Minia Lafortune said, "Where are the women on the panel? Come on, come on. There she is. There's a lady on the panel. Say hi to the lady, Jody. We got
Jody,
a lady here.
you're telling me you're a lady.
It's
Maybe because I'm too quiet. Is it because
it's
I'm
only
too
because
quiet?
Jody is in our trace and nobody's seeing her.
She's Jody, you're not in no chairs, are you?
Let me find the wig. Let me go find the wig.
I think that person needs to put on a little bit of glasses, but I'm here, but I've just been listening to the gentleman. All right. I've been listening to the king speak, and I'm sure when it's my time to speak, like now, you'll all hear my voice, right?
Yes.
All right. So, my thought process, just shifting back to something Anil just said about the generational gap that we're experiencing. And for me
So
personally,
you got some fun. You got some fun on TikTok as well. I like to hear more from Jody. Okay, so go on. Yeah.
okay. All right. So there is a huge generational gap, and I'm going to say it is the generation before mine and mine that is at fault for that generational gap. Because and don't beat me, guys, I'm in there too. But the generation before mine and my generation created this generational gap. And we did it for different reasons. People did it for different reasons, like the passing on of solid education, skill, and so on. Certain set of skill sets, we hold on to it too long because we want to experience what our parents did not experience, right? And I hope I'm not going over nobody's head by saying all of this, right? But it's simple this: we were very selfish in passing on what we've learned. Selfish with our skills, selfish with how we do business. And so this generation is not to be fully blamed, right? The next generation to take over in leadership. And it's not just us. When I say us, it's not just us on these panels, generations, and countries I'm talking about. I'm talking worldwide, right? So let me give you a simple thing. Like who fixes a watch anymore?
Yeah, people go
You
to
remember
what?
when your watch didn't work and you had to take your watch to the little man at the corner that fixes the watch?
Yeah.
A lot of those don't exist anymore. Persons don't want to learn to become mechanics anymore. Nobody wants to learn. You understand what I'm saying? I'm taking it as to skills now, but it goes all the way to leadership. There's no mentorship program for leaders in terms of who is going to take over from me. Every great leader looks for its successor. From they're in the position to lead, they start looking for who am I going to hand the mantle to. However, we've had a generation that's grabby and greedy that wants to keep everything for themselves, and it plays out in our society today because we see why we have corrupt leaders. because we always just want to grab for ourselves and keep for ourselves and not passing on the knowledge and passing on the things that we've learned so that we can build the next generation. So the
Yes.
leadership gap is as a result of that buzz. And as I said, this is right across the world, right? Which is why we can't see, okay, so who is meant, like I will ask this now of Lester. Lester, who is Andrew mentoring to take over from him? You see what I'm saying? Who is our honorable prime minister in mentoring to take over from him? And I just putting Lester in the hot seat because I know that him connected
I
like
don't know if
that.
it's the actual question. No, I don't know if it's the actual question. I know the answer to that, but I don't know if it's the actual question or you
It's
just
an
have
actual
say something.
question.
Is women
But
the
no, me
speaker?
not
Oh,
just say nothing. But I'm just saying that
It's an
we
OG question.
shouldn't.
It's an OG question, which is
It's
direct.
a,
Is
it
women
is
the
a
speaker
very
of the
direct
house to take
question.
over from him?
Lester.
well, to answer Jody's question first, it's Dr. Nigel Clark.
Oh, so he's
But
grooming
with that
Nigel
said,
Clark.
yeah. But the thing is, we have to be practical and we have to be honest, right?
Yeah.
Let us look at the church. We have this 2,000-year-old doctrine or 2,000-year-old book and laws and rules and stuff like that, right? And then over time, as society changes, as technology changes, as nations expand and ideologies changes, the church remains the same, right? And people start to have this big disconnect. Them say, but we don't connect with this 2,000-year-old doctrine. We don't connect anymore. And no matter how you spin it, what we start seeing more now is that religious leaders, and not just the church, but the religious leaders overall, we start to have a crack in the chink. We start to see a chink in the armor. We start to see more flaw and flawed humans in religious leaders. More than ever before, we have seen religious leaders getting arrested for perversion, getting arrested for carrying drugs, getting arrested for embezzlement, just all type of stuff. So we realize that the religious sector is not where it is. So a lot of people now start lose respect for that. Then we have religious leaders who have political biases, and then if you don't align with um our political direction, then we lose respect for that leader because they're not aligned. Then everybody never used to have a voice, right? One time just popular people had a voice or political people had a voice, right? Now everybody has a voice. And then with the internet again, we start seeing countries like the G8 countries for what they really are. It's not like it's changing now. America's always been the way it is. What it is now is that there's a bigger spotlight or more spotlight being shone on America. Um, England was a little bit more stable longer because of the monarchy and because of certain things, but England still had a lot of problems. But what happened now is that we have more cameras, we have more spotlight, we have more things. And then when you look at these big G8 countries, and we realize, hey, but even if you look at like crime, right? Compare Qatar, compare Libya, compare Saudi Arabia, these countries that the big G8 countries called dictatorship countries and horrible leaders and horrible countries to live in and stuff like that. When you look at crime in these countries, is minimal.
But
And then we see where democratic countries
Yeah.
have serial killers, have mass shootings, and just have crazy things, but it's been exposed. And then we see crazy things happening with the leaders. We see England have 6 leaders in 5 years or something like that. That's like
Yeah.
6,
Yeah, they're
right?
gonna yeah. So I lose touch now. Could be 20, but then you're gone. Sorry. I'm just kidding.
So,
You
so
go.
and then also when you start seeing how many of these leaders have generated massive wealth in such a short space of time, and when we start see who them are linked with, right? And then the more information they get, you realize, say, all right, the president of the United States is known as the most powerful man on earth, but you have the CEO of BlackRock, right, which is a part of the Alec Group. Like I pulled the strings, you know. So we have some powerful people, business people behind the scenes, really pushing an agenda, and the politicians just have to just play to the tune.
Listen, can I
And then
just come in?
these things,
Yeah, go on. Keep talking, listen, go on.
these
Sorry.
things get exposed now, and even with our own country, where we start see a lot of things that we never used to have in our country start seeping and start destroy the fabric of our country, right?
Yeah.
We see a lot of queer things, a lot of other things that would never used to be prominent in our country start be very upfront, and which was once hidden, right? Start come up more. We the pathological the just uncouthness is just no shame the day in the game now. People just start do anything now because of what we're seeing being portrayed now, and we say, boy, you know, we're gonna copy that. People don't try to push the best of themselves anymore, right? Them try to push what them feel like for push, and not just the best of themselves anymore.
Yeah. One of my observation I've seen, and like what you have said, Lester, a while ago, in regards to the church and the 2000 year structure doctrines, Qatar and these places in Dubai and those Saudi Arabia, they have a very strong religious base, isn't it? Right now in the UK, for argument's sake, the Muslims will go for their call to go to their prayer. You've got the mayor of London. He's a Muslim, and you've got different key political leaders, and they're all subject to the direction and leading of the imam, even though they may have different political leaning. So wouldn't you say that it is that the lack of strong religious sound leaning is also one of the failings at the same time of society? Men will always fail, and the Bible says all have sinned and fallen short. But is it that social media now is now exposing everybody so quick? Is like, let's say normally knife killing and all those sort of things has been happening all the while, but social media now has exposed it, so we are seeing it more often. So is it a blame for the church structure, everything like that, or is that
No,
it is more?
Silver.
So go on. Sorry.
No,
Go on.
it can't blame the church, right?
Yeah.
Because the church do not live in people's homes, right? People claim to go to church to get salvation.
Yeah.
Okay. Further to that, crime is societal.
Yeah.
So what is a crime in the UK, in the US, in Jamaica, isn't a crime in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, right? Because it's legal for people to carry firearms in the US. In Qatar, if they catch you with a firearm, you're probably looking at your casket.
Yes.
I've never been there, right? So for us to say, to make that comparison, I think it's pushing the needle a bit close to one side. So we have to look at comparative countries to see what we've been doing and how we can change it going forward. Because remember, as I said a couple weeks ago, crime was always happening without social media. But with the advent of social media, it is now being highlighted, right? Find out, hearing about few people dying last night in Kingston, 4 in Clarendon, as opposed to the 90s, going back 80s. They didn't have all those news. We will only hear if someone of prominence was killed. Like in the 1980s election, we were at 800 people dying in 1 year, right? Now we have 1,000 something people dying in a year. Nobody's
Yeah,
paying attention to that
yeah,
because
yeah,
there are things to be bigger things to be worried about.
yeah,
So
I
we
think
have to look at comparative nations, comparative states, to make an argument to say crime has indeed gotten out of hand, and it's because of policies of past administrations or the doings of opposition leaders or um, wannabe dictators
yeah,
why things are happening.
yeah. Okay,
yeah,
thanks for that. Only,
But,
only
but,
can
but
you wrap up on this session, this section? Okay,
yeah.
only and then Lester, and then we'll change over to another topic here.
but what I think Herbert missed.
Okay.
So
Oh,
just one
Lester,
clarification.
let O'Neill speak first, and then you go in, Lester, on the point.
One clarification, Herbert. Only in certain states you're allowed open carry in the U.S. And then there are certain states you have to get a license. So, for example, I'm in Virginia. I can do an open carry without a license, but you still have to get the background check. So just to clarify that. Um, you know, as I just reflect upon the overarching conversation that we're having, we're talking about leaders. We've touched on the church. We've touched on politicians. But I think the number one thing, in my opinion, is if you look at every leader, what they have a family structure or a lack of their. So one of the things that we have seen that has been broken down across all spectrum, whether it's Jamaica, whether it's here in the US, is the lack of a family structure. And I mentioned it before. It's not just a mother and a father, right? Is your grandmother that's part of your life, your grandfather, your aunt, your uncle, etc., etc. You know, I have a person in Jamaica that has been my driver for years, and you know, the one thing he said that kept him out of trouble was his grandfather and his uncle. He said the community that he comes from, there's two things that normally happen, two avenues you have. You either pick up a gun or you go somewhere else. It was his uncle and his grandfather that kept him straight. So it's the same thing when we're talking about leaders, right? The church don't birth good leaders.
True.
It's us. I hope my sons and my sons, they look at me as an example. They look at my grandfather, my father, who they call their uncles, who are part of their life. I have a brother who called my kids like every week. I have sisters who does that. So I think we're missing essential ingredient, which is the family. And I think without the family, which is essential ingredient in family, that's why we have this lack of leadership. Because our grandmother taught us humility, our mother taught us empathy. Our wives and girlfriends taught us to be human beings. We don't have that anymore. Right? And that's where we're seeing a breakdown. I go to Jamaica and I was just there, and it shocked me because there's this lady, and I shouldn't even call her a lady. She's probably 14 years old buying baby clothes. And I'm sitting there asking the guy, I was like, and he's like, yeah, she's buying baby clothes. She's 14 years old. Think of that. What kind of life is she's going to have?
True.
Right? And that's the thing that I think is lacking, is how do we get a better family structure? Because without the family, everything else is immaterial.
Yeah. Thanks for that, O'Neill. And the point that you mentioned about being in Jamaica, I wanted to come into that in the next step because I wanted to touch on some Jamaica issues there. And what you touched on is a key point. But I want to finish off with what Lester wanted to say in response to Herbert before I just flip the switch.
Not just Herbert, but overall. Okay,
Overall, yeah.
when I made a comparison with nations in the Middle East or in Northern Africa, right?
Yeah.
I think that many of these guys had a foresight to say, listen, if we allow certain things that the Western countries are allowing, our society will have a rapid decay. And so what we have seen is that some things that we may take for democracy or take for liberties, they have taken that away and it has benefited their society. And we are trying to push this um, uh, freedom. And as flawed human beings, when we have our own autonomy over a lot of there are too many things, we
Yeah.
tend to carry out our flawed nature throughout our lives and throughout certain things, and that is why we have in the societal problems that we're having now in the West. And certain problems are not creeping into the societies of the Middle East or the Muslim societies. We don't see certain things because they try to have a foresight and say, hey, if we allow one, it's going to multiply and we can't control it. So
Mm.
we are not going to follow what the Western countries do. We are going to have our own thing and we're going to keep it in a particular way and it benefits our country. And the proof is in the pudding. There are certain things that doesn't happen in these countries, and it consistently happens in the West.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining on the show. The Talk and Sip, those on TikTok. TikTok very active, those on Instagram, YouTube, especially on Facebook. And the topic we have been looking at is Worldview Watch, the leadership gap. And we are seeing whereby something that needs to be done. And I believe that what needs to be done is for us to arise. I mean, Herbert and I, we have been talking about the knife crime in the UK, the killing of the young girl, and we have been looking at different ways that we don't lose the focus while the world is going in a turmoil with what's happening in the Middle East, that we as fathers, as men, also try to effect strong leadership along with the women like Jody, Marie, as well, you know. But I want to move on from this particular topic, and I also want to link in with Jamaica directly. um, O'Neill just came back from Jamaica, and one of the things that was coming through, but one of the things that I wanted to start first on, and then O'Neill can pick it up, is there was a job fair in the UK, in London, in Jamaica, by Ramesh, who was a former um, manager for Shensia, and I seen a trend.
Ramesh Major, his name is Ramesh Major.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, Lester.
His name is Ramesh Major.
Okay, Ramesh Major, you can clarify that, yeah. Um, and what came through was the fact that many people were upset that they had to pay $1,000 for a job fair, and but what I saw bigger than that was the fact that people are actually looking for opportunities, and people are in business as well. A small man trying to make a breakthrough. I've got uh, a thing which is called Mama's Old Time Stew Tamarind. A friend of mine made it, and he said, "Boy, City, sometimes it's hard to get these things going through." You know, I want to ask O'Neill your perspective of just coming back from Jamaica, and then I'm going to bring in Jody as well, and Lester, of course, everybody, because I believe at the helm of all of this is leadership. Still at the same time.
You don't need to go to Hero Circle.
No, we're not going. Let's leave that one there. I don't know if O'Neill went there.
No, I did. What struck me, it's a couple things, and Jody, could sort of correct me or not, but when I go to Jamaica, I try to meet with folks who are struggling, who needs help, who have ideas. And over the years, there's a common theme. And the common theme is you have some people who break through, and when you hear their story, how they broke through, it warms your heart. You cheer for their success.
Yeah.
But then you have others who have these great ideas, and the system is holding them back. And I met a couple of people, and one lady in particular, and she's been trying. She's a nurse by trade, but she want to be an entrepreneur. And she started out, using every money that she has to build this business. And I met with her, and I said, where are you selling your product? And she said to me, I can't sell my product until I get a Bureau standard stamp. I'm like, well, just have them come and give you a stamp. She's like, it costs $2 million. And I'm like, what? What do you mean $2 million? She's like, yeah, for them to give you a stamp, you have to pay them $2 million. And I was like, is that a government agency? And she said, yes. So the inquiries continue. And I said, what about getting grants? And she said to me, she said, well, you have to apply for grants. I was like, yeah, you apply for grants. And then I said to her, I said, have you talked to the member of parliament? And she shied away from that discussion. I won't say which parish. And she said, well, another day with some drinks, I'll tell you. Because she said to me, which was heartbreaking, she's like, they pick winners and losers. And she said, even though I had an established company, I went for the grant. The folks who did not have established companies actually got the grant because they're connected. I'm like, man, this is super. And I'm like, I'm going to try to figure out how to. So, I'm like, that is one story. But I heard that story over 3 days. And then I had a conversation tonight, and someone validated it. Someone said, well, if you're not connected, it's hard for you. And I sat there at the bar for probably about 2 hours. And my insight is this: how many young women who have ideas, because these are all women that I spoke with, that have ideas that will transform their community, but they're being getting held down by the system. And one of the things I said to a couple of the young ladies, I said, there are people who I could put you on to help you. And I said, I'm going to do whatever I can to help. But it's sort of go more at a macro level. And Lester, I know he's going to comment on this, but I've heard these stories across Jamaica. And it's not just whether you're in St. Anne's or Clarendon. I'm hearing it multiple places that I go, that I have these ideas, and if I don't kiss the ring, these ideas don't get it. And this is not a political statement. It's multiple people who they have products. Or someone said to me, the water system need to be fixed. And they said, well, the water system will never be fixed because look at who owned the water trucks. And I laughed. But if you look across multiple different places, Silver, it's where you have these folks who they're so talented, but there's a system that decide to pick the winners and losers. Somehow we have to get to a Jamaica where anyone has a good idea is able to try. And until we get to that point, we'll continue to have the issues that we're having. Because I am a big believer, if you sort of enable women in any society, that society thrive. You could look at any research. When women are empowered, everything happen. And if you go back, most of us listening, our grandmothers are a central part of what we have become. And somehow we have to figure out how to unlock those talent, because some of those talent are being repressed. We can't continue to pick winners and losers.
Thanks for that, Jody. What's your take on the rock? Even though Lester virtually is on the rock more than all of us still at the same time. What's your take, Jody? Jody, sorry, you're on mute. Did I mute you?
You're mute.
I don't think I muted you.
No, she's on mute.
Yeah,
You're on mute.
unmute yourself. Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
she's gonna come back.
probably hit the wrong button.
Okay, Lester.
First of all, O'Neill, I can guarantee you that it is not $2 million to get the stamp of Bureau standards. I can guarantee you that, right?
So Lester, she actually showed me. So Lester, she actually showed me the document that she got from Bureau standards.
O'Neill, I will hook you up after this with one of the senior managers at Bureau Standards, right?
Okay.
And you can help her through the process through him, right? But I think it's a lot more process, because I recently helped somebody who is doing juices, barbecue sauce and spices and stuff like that, and they had to get instruments and a place and cooling and a lot of other things. So maybe the $2 million encompasses several other things, right? But for the stamp itself, it wasn't $2 million. But anyway, I'll help you after year with a person from Bureau Standards. With the Ramesh major thing, Silburn, Ramesh is a private businessman. It's a private entity. And whatever service he's offering to the public, he can charge for it or not charge for it. You know, there's nothing illegal in what Ramesh did. And it is not even unique to what Ramesh did. So, I mean, Ramesh manages Ding Dong, he manages Skeng, he manages several popular entertainers, several popular disc jockeys, several popular dancers. So his place of business have a lot of popular people. From what I'm gathering, that the talking point of $1,000 entry fee or to be interviewed was a deterrent to persons who would have wasted his time or idlers. Because a lot of people.
Was it $1,000 US or $1,000 Jamaican? Just so context.
$1,000 Jamaican dollars.
Jamaican dollars, okay.
Right. Yeah, $1,000 Jamaican dollars. Right. And persons were saying it's a scam and this and that, but you know, knowing Ramesh's history and what he has done for the community that he's in, and even the wider community, you know, that a scam is one of the furthest thing for Ramesh Major's reputation.
But why do you think that so many people came out? And I'm gonna sorry, I want to jump on Jody onto this as well. We keep talking about it, but why do you think so many people came out? Well, that's the thing again. That is the thing. I just said, why do you think that so many people came out? Well, really and truly, it is because I just saw it on TikTok. A lot of people were talking about it, but it could be 10 people I saw on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it $1,000 for them to get an interview, or $1,000 to get into the venue?
Lester or Jody?
$1,000 to be interviewed, but it wasn't a serious thing. It was a face card, because when the person showed up, you know, he actually told them that there's no cover charge to get the interview, but it was just a buffer to not have the idlers or the crowd because of who he is and the compound that he you know, there's a lot of stars.
He changed his mind because
I just want to share something. So normally, when you have conferences like this,
Repeat that, please.
When you have career fairs, you typically pay an entry fee, and for students, you discount it way down. Typically, you don't have a fee to get interviewed. Just from a best practice, you do have an entry fee, and for student and certain folks, you discount it way down. But in terms of the interview, you typically don't have a fee to do interviews.
Yeah. I need to get Jody in. Jody, please. Now people are asking for your voice on TikTok. Yeah.
Um, well, all right, let me speak on the Ramesh thing, and then I'm going to go back in response to something Anil was talking about earlier with the
Yeah.
BOS standards and women in business in Jamaica. All right, so the Ramesh thing, I think he has all right to do what he did. Me personally, as an entrepreneur, as I was saying to Silburn, when we spoke earlier, that I have had job fairs with other organizations
You mute yourself again.
No, no,
Okay.
no. I did that. I was sorry, Jody. Go on. Is Lester having some voice in the background? So I just moved to Lester. Jody, you are supposed to be free now. You're okay now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what I was saying is in my perspective, what Ramesh did, I personally have no problem with it from an entrepreneur point of view, based on the fact that there needs to be a processing fee. There are some persons who are recruiting companies that you have to pay a processing fee to process them, right? Which I think is the idea that Ramesh had in his head. And also, as Lester said, he came out himself and said it was to keep away the idlers, right? Because they all come and they want to interview a bunch of people for different amount of positions. You don't want a lot of people who don't mean any sense at all, right?
Mm.
And from my perspective, I usually tell persons, if you're coming to our job fairs, send in your application. We are going to sift through the applications before and call the people that we think are the best fit candidates that we want to interview, because we don't want to waste our time, right? And it's very costly to do a job fair again, because you alone can't sit and interview 300, 400 people. You need a bunch of staff who's going to deal with the admin stuff, right? But from a entrepreneur point of view in Jamaica here now, I'm fine with what he did. There's no objections on that from me personally. All right. What I found very ridiculous is, you calling somebody a scammer, somebody who gives back, which discourages a lot of young entrepreneurs. And I am little in the game compared to Ramesh. You know what I mean? I'm little in the game compared to Ramesh. And I'm saying that um, when you give back the way Ramesh has given back, when you do things and give away things the way Ramesh has given back, I find it insulting, as he said it himself, that somebody would want to call him a scammer outrightly and things like that. It don't make sense. Why would he scam for that little bit of money and he can do way less to gain more?
So
And
so where
he's
so
offering
where
job
yeah.
opportunities.
So where do you think it come from for people to say that? I
A
mean,
very small mindset of people in Jamaica right
no,
now,
no,
and
no.
having nothing to do
Veronica,
and nothing to say but comment
hold
on
on,
social
hold on.
media.
Veronica Tate said plain scam and call it scammer. And why so many people? When I say so many people, I've got to also qualify why people are coming out, leaking out against it. Eh, uh, why that is so?
That's what I'm
Anyone?
Remember,
saying. I think it's
remember,
just the mindset of the people and where they are, right? Like, I think generally, and it's a culture that I have seen, like people want everything to be given to them on a platter, right? All the time. In Jamaica, it's like a freebie thing. And I blame sometimes the things that our governments do to trigger that as well. We give away health care, not even a registration or processing fee. We give away education. We give away everything. So Jamaica think everything should be handed to them on a platter. And so anything that somebody says, okay, if you want better for yourself, then pay. Everybody says, oh, you're a scam or you're not legal. Or I personally experienced that. Yeah, understand what I'm saying? You have,
Yeah,
say for example, a school that you says, okay, you're offering this, and there's another place that offers it. You choose which one you want to go to depending on the standards, the amount of money you have to pay. And not because somebody's charging more than the other school means one's a scammer, but they say it anyway,
yeah,
right? So it's just the mindset of the people and where they're at in their brains, why they think that every time somebody says pay for something, it is a scam. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them, I've seen where people come and say, oh, we have an overseas program going on, and you need to come up with 400 US dollars or 300 Canadian. These people will do anything to run, go get this money. And then these scammers now run off with their passports and their money. You
yeah.
understand? This is a different situation, right? And I find that we gravitate towards certain things and we put labels on certain things and we don't judge them equally because this type of person is doing it versus this type of person. It's just a place in our brains where we've become so warped and judgy towards people, and not realizing that we've caused this on our own self.
But very good point, Jody. And personally speaking, I believe it's a brilliant concept, and I believe that sometimes one has got to use a tail to wag the dog, and instead of waiting for the government to do it, and if he can start it somewhere on a small level, I
I
wouldn't be
believe so
surprised.
too.
What is that? Yeah,
No, I believe so too. It's a brilliant
yeah,
business
yeah.
concept. I like
And
it.
I believe that from what he has done, maybe create employment in that area and say he's going to run it every 3 weeks. And guess what? Guess what? I just was thinking about, and of course Ramesh know this by and people involved in this business will know it. Who knows? You may have, I understand, 150 jobs there. He may end up having a lot more people on his books that some major organization and some hotels or whatever may start coming to him in order to get persons, and he may have already have them on their books, and then he can get an agency fee, and then boom, I'm sure.
No,
I
but
mean,
I think Silver,
It's an
Remember,
employment
right?
agency.
yeah,
sorry.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay to charge. Like, there's a popular black career fair in the US called Afrotech. For you to show up at that, you have to pay to get in. Now
Yeah,
you get interviewed, right? Students are discounted, right? So if he's charging an entry fee to get in, that's fine. That's typically
mm,
happen. You have corporate sponsors, people get jobs, right? You connect all these different things. So I don't know why people would think that it's a scammer
Hmm.
unless it's how the words and how you market it. Right? So I
yeah,
think it's probably something around the marketing piece of it.
yeah.
There's some misconception, but it's standard practice. You go into a
Yeah.
job fair and expect the Afrotech is one. You have to pay to get in.
Herbert,
Remember, we live in a world where conspiracy theories
reign supreme.
are the thing,
Mm,
right? And if someone is doing something and some populists think that they should be doing it and not that person should be doing it, it's a scam because only they are the only genuine ones that work. Everybody else that comes has a motive for doing something
yes.
they should be doing,
Mm,
right? So if Ramesh is doing it, and from what I've read about him, he has given back to the community,
mm.
right? I don't think $1,000 would be too much. Jamaicans were paying 1.5 million to see Chris Brown.
Yeah, and
Jody,
that's
did you
two
go to
pounds.
Chris Brown? Yeah.
2 pounds. That's 2 pounds. Just 2 pounds.
Yeah.
£2.
Yeah, $5 US dollars.
Sorry, what is the rate for the pound to the Jamaican dollar? I'll
So
check it out while we're talking.
I think it's 180 something
Yeah, so that's like
dollars,
$2 and something, and it's like
right?
about five, almost six US dollars.
Mm, mm.
And if Jamaicans can find 1.5 million to see Chris Brown, why scoff at $1,000 to make their lives better? Why?
Yeah.
Hmm.
No,
Is there something?
I know
Is
he
there
went to
something
Chris
deep?
Brown.
Yeah. Is there something deeper here at the same time, whereby uh, persons wanting a better life and wanting to see get jobs and the opportunities presenting themselves, and then what I find also very interesting though is that, and I believe this very strongly, I believe a lot of the people who came out licking out, they weren't gonna go. There weren't people who were gonna go at the same time. The people who were actually opposing it on social media, I doubt they would go actually. You know, do you think those people would go, Jody? The people who are licking out?
As I said, it, it is there for persons to create a frenzy about it, right? And
Yeah.
even I read one of the comments that saying, here are these people over here on TikTok and on Instagram beating up themselves, when the truth and fact of it is that Ramesh is way way ahead of all these people. They're sitting down at home, they're working an average job more or less. And get Ramesh owns his own businesses, right? And is employing people. They are
Yeah.
being employed, their employers, right? It's not like no educated business people. It's just a bunch of people who just believe they must have a say in every social media comment. And
Yes.
it, whether it was productive or not, it still gave Ramish's thing more attention. And I think this even makes it better the next time he has another one, because now more people are going to know about it because of all that was said about it. So that's free promotion for
Well,
him. So
remember
that's
as
what
well.
they did. They promoted
Yeah.
his thing more.
Herbert. Herbert, go
Remember
ahead.
as well. We have to grapple with the labeling theory, right? If somebody from the US or UK had gone to Jamaica to do the same thing, it would have been fine. But
Yes.
because Ramesh is
A
Miss
yardie.
Matthew Nichols barefoot boy who used to walk up and down the street, it is no
Mhm.
good.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we have to define who we are, right?
Hmm.
And what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Now,
alluded
now,
to
now,
that a little bit. Oh, sorry,
go, go,
Silver.
Jody. Go, Jody. Go,
No,
Jody. Yeah.
I had said I alluded to what Herbert was just saying just now earlier when I said that I have known of companies who've come from overseas and say they're having a job fair and there is an entry fee to get in there. And nobody blows up about this, and it's advertised on the media, it's advertised over the airways, and it's no big deal. People just know that they're going to this location and they're going to do recruiting, and they need to carry this money and this amount of documents and whatever, and they all pack up and long lines and they go and they pay their money and nobody argues.
Do
But
you? Yeah. Sorry. Let's say you can respond to this point. Do you think while that was happening, there should have been also some strong voices from government or some leadership area to sort of give some sort of clarity or some sort of support? Because at the end of the day, if you're providing jobs to Jamaicans, that will look well also on the government, because that is also reducing the high level of unemployment. Should there also be a voice from government or so to support Ramesh at the same time? And let's say you can pick up on that well, as and your point
No,
also.
the government no business with that, Silver.
The government is not
Government
business
no
with
come in
that.
this. Government no come in this. That's a Ramesh. That's a solely Ramesh thing.
Yeah.
Um, the thing, Silburn, is
Mm.
the type of jobs Ramesh was offering.
But
If
he said he got
Ramesh was
approval. He said he got approval from the Ministry of Labor.
yes, but I'm saying the government no business in coming in and defending him.
Okay. Okay.
You know, what I'm saying, is that it's the type of jobs Ramesh was offering. If Ramesh was offering jobs to tour with Shensia, tour with Ding Dong, tour with Skengdem, I mean jobs to go overseas,
No,
nobody would have a problem.
just to carry the suitcases.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody would have a problem because of foreign, right? Now to me the let me not single out the United States embassy. Embassies in Jamaica,
At
right?
the United States Embassy.
The British
Sorry,
Embassy.
I'm just
The
using an
British
example.
Embassies are over, right? Because I'm a potential anyway. So, but when you look at that, you have to pay almost $30,000 or maybe $33,000 Jamaican
Yeah.
dollars, right?
Yeah.
For a possibility of getting a US visa. It's a high possible. The B1, B2 visa, right? Is the least issued visa also. A lot of people don't know that. The visiting visa that people get from the US Embassy is the least issued visa of the 28 visas the United States of America has. The least, right? So and you pay for that, and these people willingly give over them biometrics. They willingly give over them grandmother middle name. Then give them blood sample, right?
And they
They
give
would
them
have
all the
carried them pick them up, everything, right?
Yeah.
But for a fee of $1,000 Jamaican, right, to be included in our database, to potentially get one of the 150 jobs available that Ramesh had, because he might expand him whole empire, you know. Because a lot of people don't understand what Ramesh does. You understand me? It's not just one or two or three businesses. It's a massive empire he has, right? And he's expanding it tremendously. And a lot of people don't know who Ramesh Major is. Them used to the government having job fairs, which is free because jobs fair costs money, especially if them have agencies relocating from one part of the island to the other part of the island. It costs a whole lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And people don't have the government normally absorb that, right? Ramesh have to take him time out time day to focus on the job fair. That means the other parts of him in business is going to get neglected for that day, right? And then he has to hire additional people or have him staff come there, other people, right, to interview these people. Yesterday's 200 people turned up yesterday. 200 people turned up, right? It's not easy to go through 200 people, right? And everybody got food, everybody got drinks, everybody got water, right? All of that come out of Ramesh's pocket.
Yeah.
So this is what I don't understand. Now, in Jamaica, right, all the bathrooms in fast food places or gas stations are free, right? In the Netherlands, you have to pay. If you're going to KFC, Burger King, you're going on a gas station, you have to pay for use them bathroom. You have to pay to use them bathroom, right? I don't know if this is the case, but like with the condiments, the ketchup and the mustard and stuff like that in Jamaica, it is given free, right, Jody?
Yeah.
In the Netherlands, you have to pay. If you want a ketchup, you have to pay for it.
Extra.
In London too.
In London.
Yeah.
Where
None is
London?
given to you.
KFC.
No,
London.
I don't pay for them things.
If you want a
Yeah.
I don't pay for them things. I just talk to the person and say, "Can I?"
No. You have to buy false food to pay
False-
for those things. False food, McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you get the food, you get your condiments.
No. They're limited to 2 sachets, and anything after that you have to pay for it.
Yeah, man.
No,
I
Herbert,
call
Herbert.
and I speak to them and I say, "Come on, guy, what do we? Let me speak to your manager." And they say, "Oh."
There you go.
But Herbert,
Yes.
here in the Netherlands, Herbert, that never happen. One, if you buy your food, you don't get 2 or 1 free. You don't get any at all free. If you want one of the sachet them of ketchup or mustard, you have to pay for it. Right? When I just came here, I'm see it, it was mind-boggling to come and say, "Yo, Jamaica the boss. Can we get 10 ketchup for 1 free?" You understand me?
Anil, what you're taking in the States, is that the same thing in the States, Anil?
No, you get it free.
Huh?
You get it for free. You get it for free.
But
That's not ultra standard, man. You guys need to have an ultra standard on the mindset,
exactly. But what I'm saying is that Jamaican people.
No, hold
Right.
on. Listen, if you go to Ochoria Jerk Center, you have to pay. I know that for a fact because I had to pay for it. I needed extra and I had to pay for it.
That's true, O'Neill. I had to pay for it to O'Neill. I went there.
I don't pay for that. My red stripe is still in the Ochoria Jerk Center still after all these years. I don't pay for these things. I mean, even in the place where I go and dance sometime in the petrol station, the bathroom is out of bounds. But when I said to the guys, I need to use a bathroom, oh yes, super, yes, go ahead. You just have to go ahead and get it.
Because
No, but I understand.
a particular way.
Yeah, no, I understand. I do. I'm being facetious. Yes, in some places you still have to pay for these things. Yes, yeah.
But Silver, quickly, when you look at as what Joy said, when you look at the level, I mean, I really care. When you look at the level of people who are bash Ramesh, right? Most of these people are not very educated people, or most of these people are not business people. They never run a business yet. They not even run them house yet. The persons who are entrepreneurs are business people, right? Are in corporate Jamaica or higher management understand that certain things comes at a cost,
Mm,
right?
mm.
So they have no problem with it. It's just a particular level of people in Jamaica have an issue with certain things, right?
Yeah.
To
I
me,
think okay.
healthcare in Jamaica would be better if we have a cover charge.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Lester, what it seems to me with Ramesh is that he's trying to do good for the community, and there's a group of people that are throwing stone at him. What that will let him do next time, he's like, you know what? I'm not
Can't
doing it.
bother.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the outcome someone wants. Like, hey, we don't want you to do X, Y, Z. So therefore, we're gonna put the word out there. And what I would say to Ramesh, continue to do it. Continue to do it because you're not serving the people who are critiquing you. Continue doing it. This
Yeah.
is where we talk about leadership. This is
Yes.
where you say, fine, I'm gonna take some arrows, but I'm not serving you guys. I'm
Yeah.
serving the people. So I would say to Ramesh, continue to do it.
And I would say as well to Ramesh to continue doing that. And based on my perspective and looking at it, I can see it shooting off in a higher level and creating more opportunity as well, whereby he's going to now have to get more staff now and hire people who knows from the same people that came in to start having this job fair maybe
Yeah.
every 3 months or every 6 months or so. And as I said earlier, the majority of the people who are offended are people, trust me, who would not be going there. And the
I
persons who
think
are going and the persons who are going there, they must be happy as well.
I,
Silver, you know, so Ramesh not have to live at Jamaica.
I know that.
Ramesh not have to live and he choose to live in Jamaica, right? Um, I've seen a lot of entertainers who are very prominent are moving to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Atlanta now, right? I don't think Jamaica understands when you have these persons with this high level of income, how it helps Jamaica because the foreign exchange then comes through the Jamaican system,
Mm.
right? Now, Spice lives in Atlanta. She bought a house in Atlanta, right? Her money no longer comes to Jamaica.
Okay.
Right? Her money stays in the United States. Shaggy has now relocated to the United States again about a year
No.
now,
Remember,
right?
remember, Shaggy has been living in the US from
No, no,
he was a
no, no,
teenager.
no. Shaggy had moved back to Jamaica
Yeah,
for
Oh,
he
over
went
a
back to
decade.
Jamaica. He went back to
For
okay.
over a
Jamaica
decade.
and then he
Yeah,
came
man.
back
For
last year. Yeah,
last year.
he's now living
Yeah,
in Miami.
yeah.
And you saying both
Right?
lives in Jamaica?
Not for long.
Well, he's not going to live there for long. What are you saying?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, no, no,
He
no. I'm
can't
kidding.
run again. We not take him.
No, but what I'm saying is that we keep, and this is happening from the 60s and the 70s.
Mm.
Some of our best talent, some of our most wealthy persons, some of most hardworking manufacturers and creatives, we keep chasing them away. We keep chasing them away. And
Yeah.
we, have a we need to understand that we have to start retaining these people, honoring these people, right? I hear all them disrespect Asafa Powell recently. Disrespect Asafa Powell and his wife, right?
Really? People.
Because he was saying, yeah, because he said that, listen, we are superstars, right? When we go to other jurisdiction, people worship us, people appreciate us, people treat us well, right? And
Yes.
Jamaicans on the internet said the most awful things to this man and his wife,
But you
right?
know this saying,
Asafa.
a hero is never welcome in his own home and stuff like that, until they go overseas and so on. Jody, in wrapping up, what's your last word, Jody?
All right, in wrapping up, I'll just go back to something we were talking about earlier, where Anil commented on the young Jamaican woman who he spoke to while he was here and the difficulty in getting all the requirements for their business. And I think because our system has a lot of blanket rules that govern certain areas. Like even for a lot of Jamaicans now are into producing their own cosmetic lines and
Yeah.
things like that. From from COVID, from the end of COVID, we have a lot of young entrepreneurs, and majority of these are women, right? They're
Yeah.
building small companies in Jamaica ridiculously, but they're being held back by some of these red tapes, which are set up for huge companies and huge corporations, and they're expecting us to go by the same guidelines as for big companies. And so I think they need to look at how they look at small businesses now, because if we have 10 small businesses manufacturing different products, this is potential for 4 or 5 big companies in the future. But these women can't afford to go on these big scales as these big companies, and it is unfair of the government agencies to use the same guidelines for them to build their business that potentially can be that big company in a few years. So I think looking at the guidelines, the legislations, looking at the costing systems, those definitely need to be reviewed. So Lester can talk to all the people he needs to talk to pull those strings. But I'm just saying that generally, Anil, you are correct. There are a lot of young entrepreneurs that wants to get their products into the mainstream market. A lot of people are doing it now. We're smarter, you know. We're doing it through overseas companies and getting overseas guidelines, and then probably putting the products on Amazon before they actually come to Jamaica. Because the legislations in Jamaica are so tight and hard and difficult that we have to say, let's produce out of the country, then bring it back into the country, which still put us backwards instead of forward.
Let me ask a
Right? So it's
question.
easier to do those things.
Let me
Go
ask a
ahead.
question. Is it true that the Chinese and the Indians, they get a 5-year tax break setting up a business in Jamaica, as
Well,
opposed to
overseas investors, not just Chinese and Indians.
Yeah,
Pardon?
it's overseas. Depending on the amount you invest in, you do get a grace period for
Yeah.
tax.
Yes.
Well, it's not
So,
just Chinese and Indians.
Yeah.
so if Silver and I want to go back to Jamaica to set up a business,
You get the same rate.
You get the
Oh.
same. You get the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you get
That,
the
that's
same.
it's under the free zone.
yeah,
You get the
Okay.
same break as anybody
Yeah.
else.
okay,
But
Yes,
Silver, you know that Vita and I have a business, right? We registered our business in Jamaica, but to do it from overseas, right? It was such a hassle, right?
Mm.
And just to open a bank account, and the mere fact that Vita and I are both living overseas, and we're trying to establish to register a business in Jamaica
yeah.
is one of the hardest thing to get done if we're not on the ground itself. Because some things we can do online, other things we need to be physically in Jamaica to do.
Ground.
You know, and
Mm.
it's just crazy. We wanted to get a water to the property that we have, right? We had to fly to Jamaica. We had
you,
to fly to Jamaica.
you
For
brought
could
the
get
water
someone
from the
down there.
island.
Huh?
You brought the
get
water
someone-
from the kingdom.
Sorry. So go ahead.
No, repeat that.
You brought the
Robert.
water from the kingdom to Jamaica.
Yes. but I think the thing as applying for water, right? And we're talking to the relevant agency, which is Water Commission, and they're telling us that they're not the ones responsible for our area for the water. It is UDC. So knowing me, with my political links, without UDC is saying that they're not they control the water in the area, yes, but we have to go through NWC. So they're sending us back to NWC. We had to go to the mayor. Right? We had to go
That's
to the
because
mayor.
of connection. Is that because of connections? Then it's connections that made the difference for you. Then is that what you're saying?
No, yeah. But what I'm saying, it shouldn't be water.
shouldn't
We are
be.
trying again.
Yeah. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
but
Fair enough.
I think Jamaica, Jamaica has too many back doors for you to go through, because I can almost guarantee you, if you had find someone sitting outside of the Water Commission and you pay them, you will get your water the same day.
Mm. All right. Well, sorry, Jody. I'm gonna wrap. Jody, you're saying?
And I have nothing to say. I
Yeah.
was just laughing at what Hibbert say. I have nothing to
Yeah.
But
say.
what Herbert said, it is 100% true.
I'm
So
just
therefore,
laughing.
we're back to leadership then. We're back to leadership then. Strong leadership. So therefore,
Because
the guys who are sitting outside there, they are the ones with strong leadership and can affect change, affect water.
No,
Listen,
it's
am I
just how
correct?
bad the system is, Silburn. Because of how bad the system is, there's always a shortcut to getting there. There's always an easier way.
So I thought
Sometimes it's best to do things in
yeah,
the reverse. Remember what
yeah,
I said earlier? What
yeah,
I'm learning in Jamaica, if you do it in the reversed order, you're more
yeah.
likely to succeed.
So
If you
therefore,
try going the
yeah,
legal way first, if you try going that, it's gonna take a very long time, sometime a whole
yes,
decade.
it will.
But if you
so
do it the reversed order, I guarantee you, Silburn, you're more likely to succeed.
Silburn, Silburn,
so
the incoming MP for Northeast and the water minister, he'll fix all of that soon.
the incoming MP or the
For
incoming
Northeast,
the
the in
incoming parliamentary
the
candidate.
incoming MP for Northeast Central, which is Matthew Samuda,
Okay.
he's the water minister. He'll fix that.
So okay, so
Make sure you know on a truck.
you already
Huh?
say he's the winner. You declare that
I
he's the
said,
winner.
make sure you know we own a truck.
What?
But,
If not, them not sue me yet, pay a banger and go
but,
down the garden.
But it won't benefit Seaburn because he's notorious.
I'm an Ochi man, and so
So
therefore
it won't benefit him.
he has to pass my let's bring him on for an interview as well.
Coffee pot, brownstone, forgot what you're in.
But on a serious note, though, Lester, on a serious note, the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Trade and Investment, was in the UK recently, Senator Auburn Hill, and he brought a lot of business persons, hair business, food business, technology persons, because what he wanted to do was to bring them instead of him just talking about these persons. And I believe it was good. I interviewed a lady named Zipporah, and so Jamaica is on the roll in a sense where lots of people are actually out there doing things. But the point for today, and the point what O'Neill said, and the point what we're actually picking up is that a lot of people wanting to make a difference. My good friend here that from Jamaica, and I'm gonna just let me just plug him. Mama's old time tamarind. Yeah, Mama's old time tamarind. You know,
Okay. Silver, I read something totally different there, Silver.
what do you read?
I saw Mama's all in, but never seen nothing else.
Well, clean out your mind.
You need
You know,
glasses.
No,
You need
stop.
glasses.
No,
You
no,
need
no.
glasses.
Lester, what were you drinking?
I don't know what this is. I hope everybody can see what I'm seeing. You know? Mama's old time stewed tamarind by my good friend Roger, you know. And this is a product down there, and it's tamarind. And what I've done, I pull it and I just eat it off like in one day, just eating the tamarind. It's really like a gourmet thing.
Is that
And,
available in London?
I'm sorry.
Is it available in London? Is it
Well,
available in
I'm
London?
speaking to him to see how that can be done as well. But you know, it's tamarind and it's like a nice gourmet thing there. And a lot of people have their ideas, and we got to support them and help them. Unless, as you say, when you speak to O'Neill, you'll say you're going to have some sort of link into the Bureau of
Yeah, man.
Standards. Because so it is not 2 million or 1 million. It is, as one brethren said.
Yes.
I think it is. There may be other things that she needs to get that encompass that. But I've recently helped somebody with that, those spices to get the stamp. It wasn't close to, but they had to get other things before they got the stamp.
Yes. All right. Anyhow, thanks for coming on tonight, guys. Any last word? Anybody? Leadership.
Yeah, big up my wife Vita.
Big up Vita. Bram. Straight out of
You
yard.
see,
Straight
you
out
have
of
to-
OG. Straight out
you
of
have to
OG.
big up the Minister of Home Affairs.
Bring my wife,
Home
pizza.
Affairs.
Yeah, the
Bring
Minister
up
of
my
Home Affairs.
pizza.
Was that Lester? Was that O'Neill?
I said, big up my wife, Peter.
Big up the wife, Peter. Big up the wife, Peter. Jody Murray, we say big up Peter. So you say big up Peter.
Yeah, man, big up Vita all the time. My girl, that you know that already.
Big up Peter. And because she's from Ochiris, you know, she run things, you know what I mean, straight out of yard. Lester is trying to be a guy from Ochiris.
We are from Ochiris. We
Sorry?
are from Ochiris.
Oh, right. There we are. We are from Ochiris. He's now saying we. You know, Herbert?
Yes.
It has now become we.
And that's why Matthew Samuda is now from Ochiris too.
Backside. Everybody are going from Ochiris now.
I broke that too.
Bogart, everybody are come from Ochi. No visa for Bogart. No visa for Bogart.
We can stay with
Ochiris is another country. If you guys recall. O'Neill, peace out. Take care of yourself.
Take care, guys.
Jody, thank you so much for coming on. Herbert, welcome God. Peace out. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining tonight and for Talk and Sip. And we had a very good discussion. Vita Gale, thanks for representing women in leadership role. Sandra Pullett, no real legacy to pass on to the next generation. Yes, Jody, thank you. I think, Sandra, that we all have to be a part of that generation that passes it down to the next generation, our children, men looking after men, as Herbert and I have been talking about, that men should stand up in leadership, especially with children these days. And one of the most important things as well is that men or those in leadership actually communicate with each other, right, Herbert?
Yes.
So that when they speak to their children, the children don't feel as if to say, I don't talk to strangers, you know, but that the family and the fathers are all in some sort of relationship of respect.
Yes.
With,
Correct.
with each other. And when it comes on to the whole aspect of leadership, the topic was Worldview Watch, the leadership gap, Talk and Sip Saturday night. We saw things whereby one of the things that came out tonight was people were talking about, like, even the church taking its rightful place. And I believe that with these countries, like in the Middle East, the Muslims and different nations, they have that undergird them a strong sense of spirituality and their religion. And I believe that as Black people as well, Jamaicans as well, with so many churches, we also have to undergird ourselves with strong leadership. I see some comments which was up recently saying that what Veronica Tate said, God is the only world leader, and that we need to put our focus and trust in that. So it's a very interesting time, and we pray that in the Middle East as well, that we have some sort of strong leadership. Last word, Herbert.
I think my last word would be is that there's an absence of natural leaders.
Yes.
We have leaders, but they're self-made.
Yeah.
If we, like, there's a congressman, Hakeem Jeffries in the US.
Yes.
I think he will be the next president, the next Black president of the US.
Okay, he's in what is he? What position is he now?
He's a minority leader of the
For the Democrats. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, I know you're talking the minority leader for Democrats.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think he will be the next president, Black president of the United States. He's a natural born leader.
Yeah. And what do you think about the UK?
The UK, is like a pressure cooker just waiting to explode, because I don't think there's anyone capable enough of taking us to the next level.
That's very interesting. All right. Well, brethren, have a good night.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself.
We'll talk later.
All right, good man. Cheers,
All right,
cheers,
bless.
cheers. Take care. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And big up my one China brethren, David Chen. Who had we're gonna do some stuff with David. And for the record, David was the first guy that actually gave me a space on Ben TV to present interviews and also taking up the space as much as possible to develop and to strengthen the leadership, because what we are seeing here as well is leadership, taking the rightful place, taking the space, not waiting for a BBC or ITV, even though I'm going to be on BBC, what is it, Sunday night, tomorrow night, well, later today. I guess they're going to want to talk to me about the recent elections in the UK, the by-elections, whereby the Conservative lost 2 seats. And more than likely want to talk about what's happening in the Middle East, and of course there's church tomorrow as well. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night. May God bless you, and see you Thursday night on Talking on In Review, and Saturday night on Talking Sip. And also I just released a show with Ed Bartlett, the Minister of Tourism. I'm sort of tired now. Minister of Tourism. Go to my YouTube channel, you can watch that show. A very good discussion. We spoke about access to beach. We spoke about the rafting. We spoke about the Jamaica project, the transformation of Jamaica tourism as well. Look out for my interview as well with Marlene Malahou Fort, the Attorney General. Not Attorney General anymore, but she's a constitutional and a legal person in ushering Jamaica to become what should I say, democratic or republic. Someone said that while they were in Jamaica of recent days, not many people were keen or interested or talk about the whole republic issue, but it's got to be a discussion that people take on board, because at the end of the day, it's going to happen. And what you do not want is for it to happen and then you have a lackluster where people are not turning out to vote, and if you don't get a certain figures, then you're going to go back to what the status quo really is. And therefore Jamaicans all over, and especially those in Jamaica, they're the one with that clear responsibility to vote, right? You've got to vote. You've got to get yourself on the electoral register and to vote whenever it comes on to whether Jamaica to become a republic or not. Take that responsibility, take that leadership. Everyone has to take that leadership. That mother has to take that leadership. That child has to take that leadership. That husband got to take that leadership. That man has to take that leadership. Everyone has got to take that leadership as well as possible. All right? So peace out. God bless you. Sandra, Vita, and everybody. See you around at the next time. And God bless you. Peace out.